Welcome, everybody. We have another episode of Force Tech Talk podcast. Today, I'm joined by Ben, and we're going to explore the growing challenge of semiconductor obsolescence, as we are continuously talking about, and everyone in the industry is talking about. But we're going to approach it from an engineering versus procurement approach. So, what we mean by that is when we work on projects with customers, the differences in how we interact with engineering-led projects versus procurement-led projects. An important point to that is that in every project, there is going to be both departments involved, multiple departments involved. But it's just kind of that initial conversation, that initial project understanding is what we'll be discussing. So the first topic to kind of talk about on this is why a traditional sourcing model would maybe fall short in some legacy system projects. And what I mean by that is kind of the use of solution houses versus independent disties and brokers, and that those two different models. So of course, there's a place for disties and brokers. There's a place for solution houses. But I think talking about how engineering versus procurement will see a project and how we then get that is important. So the first thing to talk about is if we get an inquiry, for example, and it comes from an engineering team, like a component engineer, an engineering project manager, what kind of information they immediately come to. I feel like they kind of immediately get to the point of this is the problem, this is what we need, what can you do?
I think conceptually it goes sort of back to, well, if it's an engineering led request initially, they've already identified that um procurement have generally then identified that, hey, look, there's no
Is
there's
an
no
issue.
franchise distribution products available. There's no grey market product that could be done to it that can be authenticated to either their internal standards or an industry AS681 or 6171, that kind of thing. So engineering are sort of hopping straight on it, knowing that the replacement at that point isn't going to be a sort of direct buy it off the
Sourcing.
shelf
Yeah.
COT style part, if you will.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, so that for us, or certainly for me, is the preferable approach, because it allows us to jump sort of straight into the weeds, if you will,
Yeah.
and really start digging through the engineering and getting really good feedback on our solutions that we're presenting to them, and then we can work for it, at pace, to really get it, sorted as quickly as possible for them. I can totally understand it. On the flip side of it, you get the procurement side of it, and that they're sitting there with potentially hundreds of millions of product that they can't
Yeah.
sell, because of one or two sort of annoying components sitting on the board, or not sitting on the board, if you will, but that they can't get hold of, and they're sort of used to being able to get them, but as the project's gone on, they can no longer get them, and
Yeah.
and then understanding that any kind of replacement at that point is going to be a redesign or a solution of some kind,
Mm.
that is form fit function, or ideally so, but
Yeah.
not a simple buy it, put it on the board, and
Yeah.
then sort of go with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we certainly get reached out by kind of both avenues. I feel like in the last year or so, it seems to be much more engineering led. There's a lot more kind of engineering teams reaching out as the first point of contact to say, our procurement have identified this as an issue. They've already done their amazing work and said, this is a situation. It's not possible to source this from any of our approved supply chains as we would. But I think that, yeah, the procurement teams, they have a huge amount of stress, anxiety, just like a sense of helplessness, like you say, when things that they could always get and could always, reliably locate now is flagging up, no, you can't get this anywhere anymore. So I think, yeah, the stress of that is, yeah, I can't imagine it. So
Project managers coming down on them like a ton of bricks to
yeah, the
to get it
pressure,
sorted.
it
Yeah,
goes
it's
up the chain and then
mm,
it goes immediately back down to the
yeah.
procurement team and even the engineering teams. I mean, we see it from the engineering
Oh,
teams
definitely. Yeah.
also under a huge amount of pressure as soon as obsolescence comes up. Um, So I think we can get really good results with both. I think another thing to kind of touch on is one of Force's kind of value propositions, if you will, is to extend the life of equipment. And that's through customer support, customer satisfaction, but also the engineering side of it. The engineering is the crux of what we do, it's the soul of what we do. We can't support customers without our engineers. So I think it's particularly nice for me when the kind of sales and the procurement can step back slightly on a call or face to face and just let the engineers interface. You know what you're talking about. They know what they need most of the time. So I think it's a nice kind of huge collaborative approach when every department that needs to be involved is involved. And I think procurement teams, they have such a huge amount of stress that when they kind of come to us and we propose an initial solution that they will then run past their engineering. Procurement, if you're in procurement, you're not trained as an engineer, so you're not necessarily going to know, well, this is a really good approach to take on or take back to the engineers, or this is going to cost us less money in the long run if we do this route. So yeah, I think giving all the teams the kudos and the collaboration and our support is really important. So yes, I hope that we've kind of had some good discussions today that people find useful. I think, yeah, a huge emphasis on engineering led approaches versus procurement led approaches, and having a fully collaborative approach with the customer. That's something that we will always kind of strived for, is to be very in tune with the customer and what they need, but also within their own departments, what each of those departments are looking for and what their goals are. So, yes, we will see you on another Tech Talk. Thank you very much for joining.